Welcome everyone to today's webinar on DataShed 5.2.3, the beta product release that's coming out on Saturday. To our hosted clients that we're here today, thank you for taking the time out and being here today. During the session today, if you have any questions, can you go down to the questions panel and jot them down, and after the session we will have some time to go through these questions. So you can just drop your questions down here. Okay, I'm Mandy Figgins, the DataShedV5 project coordinator here at MaxGeo, and I've been involved with exploration mining software development for a decade with the focus of producing solutions that enhance, automate and integrate the many workflows performed by a geologist. Today we'll be demonstrating we'll be demonstrating some of the new features we have introduced for this version of DataShedV5. So first of all, we've added an Assay Manager module into our DataShedV5. The Assay Manager module enhances your assay management workflow by introducing an automation of your QA/QCR validation process. We'll also show you a QC policy and how to configure a QC policy, the standard QC policy that we have with our MDS. So the MDS comes out with a standard QC policy 1 with some rules attached to it. So we'll go through that policy. Then we'll be looking at how to analyze your assay data in DataShedV5 and what changes we've done to the QA/QCR dashboard. And we're looking at the validation process in the Assay Manager. So when your batches come into the system, they get QC'd by the QC checker, and then they get validated automatically if they're set to accepted. So we'll be going through the approval process that you have to do in DataShedV5. Then we'll be looking at the downhole drill log audit report. I'll show you our standard report that we have, and then also show you how you can configure this report to suit your specific requirements. Well, this is just some of the features that we have for DataShed 5.2.3, but the full list of features that we have are available online, and we did email them through, but you can get them through here, through the About screen. You can go to your release version, and then this will give you the list of everything that we've changed in this version. So yeah, first of all, before we go into the live demo, I just wanted to go through the assay management process that we have in DataShedV5 and some of the changes that we've done with the process. QA/QCR approval process, this section here, the automation, this is the section that we've added for this version. There's also some enhancements that we've done to the process the whole way along. So importing your assay data, we're using the AAL tool that we have. We've enhanced the AAL tool to give you more information in your emails that you get. There's automatic emails that get sent out. They'll have your QC, a summary of your QC details in this email. With the merging, we've improved the performance on the merging, and when you can view your unmerged assay details in your Assay Manager in DataShedV5, so there's easy monitoring and analysis of your unmerged details. The QC approval and QC checker details, what have we done here? So when you import your assay data to the data management system, batches will be automatically processed using our new Assay QC checker. The Assay QC checker will run pre-configured QC rules over the assay data and will assign a batch status depending on the pass and fail of each QC rule. So with the QC process and the approval process, email notifications will be sent out when you approve your batches in DataShedV5. We've got a flexibility and configuration for your QC policies that we're going to demonstrate. And batches will be automatically validated when they get imported into the system. If a batch passes all of the QC rules, the batch will be set to accepted. In the ranking process, we've improved the performance of your ranking, and ranking automatically happens on batches that are set to accepted. In the analysis and the reporting side of things, you can see records will get highlighted when they're failed. When they've failed their QC rules, I'll be demonstrating this, and the QA/QCR dashboard, how we can analyze our standards and repeats data. And we've also added a batch summary report that highlights in groups what's been accepted, rejected, and queried. So before we step into the demo, we've got these security levels that we have in DataShed. So you've got a user plus, and a sysadmin. For the assay management module, if you're assigned a user, you will be given the access to view your data, download your data, and analyze your data. If you're a user plus, you get all of these roles, plus you're able to edit some of your data, and you can process and approve batches. The sysadmin has access to everything. They can maintain all of their assay data, set up configurations for your assay data. They can process, they can delete batches, and they can approve as well. So now I'm just going to log in to DataShedV5. I've logged in, and I've logged in as a sysadmin, so I have full access to everything for our demonstration today. Later on, I'll show you a user access. So with the sysadmin, if you have been assigned a module called Assay Management, you will get access to this activity option down here and your Assay Manager. So the Assay Manager is a new module for DataShed 5.2.3. So from this selection here, you first get to see your filters. So we will apply a filter to see what batches do we want to display and what do we want to query. So for the demonstration today, we have got 3 batches set up that we have available. Now, from this view here, you get your batch list. So your batch list will show you the batches, and this batch status is new. So the batch status, there's different batch statuses that I'll go through. Now, an accepted batch status here, as we said, all of your QC rules will be passed, then it gets set to accepted. When it comes into the system, validated by is automatically logged and audited, and so you have got that through. Now, with the queried status, this gets assigned when there's one or more of your QC rules that have failed, but not all of them. If every rule fails, it'll get set to rejected. There's also another batch status called QC not applied. So if you don't have a QC policy attached to your batch on importing, it'll just get signed as QC not applied. In this case, QC not applied data will automatically get ranked. There's also another batch status called unmerged. So unmerged just means that details will be sitting in your unmerged assay results. Unmerged batches do not get any QC policies applied, so you will not. So you'll not get any accepted or queried. Everything has to be unmerged in that particular batch for the QC policy to be applied. So through the batch list as well, you can see that the policy that's attached to a particular batch. So this is our standard policy that we have, and I'll show you in a minute how to assign a policy. The policies actually get assigned to an import layout. From this list also, you can see this record here is highlighted in red. This just means that this this record has not been validated. It's waiting to be validated. So through the assay management as well, you'll get these accordion style drill-in items. This goes into particular information from the header. So as I said before, the unmerged assay results information, you can view all of that. The details in here is filtered by the batch numbers here that you have in your batch list. So we don't have any unmerged assay results for these 3 batches. So you've also got your raw data that comes in, the assay batch header information. This just gives you a list of everything that's come in from the lab file, the assay batch header. Also, we've got the details. This is your raw data that's come in through the system before it goes into your assay flat table. Now we've got the QC results details here. So the QC results provides a pass and fail status here. So if I just sort it by batch number, we can see for this particular batch number, all of these QC rules have been run on this batch, and this is the status that's been assigned for each rule. So this one's been highlighted in red because it's failed. From this view here, we can actually drill into the details for this rule to see specifically what has failed. So it'll give you the samples, a list of samples for this rule. We can see all of them have actually failed. So what this means is this results pass percentage is a calculation that's done, and it'll be the total number of standard samples that have failed divided by the total number of samples for this rule. So we can see that everything's failed here. What this percentage here is this is set up in your rule. When you set it up, you're saying, okay, well, I would expect 75% of my standard samples or greater to pass this rule. So anything less than 75, this rule is going to fail. I'll go through the specific rule details in a minute when we look at the QC policy. Just from this view, we can drill into everything through this little arrow to get the details. So it allows you to analyze, do a quick analysis of what has failed. So we've also got the batch approval section down here. So once you've analyzed your batch, this particular batch here is set to queried, you can go through the results. You can have a look what has exactly failed and see through here. We can go into our dashboard, which I'll demonstrate in a bit, and look for more details on what's happening with the standards and repeats. So once we've analysed our data, we can come in here and we can do the batch approval process. So for this particular batch, we get this little action mark here that allows you to approve this batch. So when you're approving a batch, you're setting the batch status. You can override the batch status. Well, I'm actually agreeing that this batch is going to be accepted or rejected. And then you can enter some comment details here. You have to enter some comments as to what you're doing. When you set your batch status up to accepted or rejected, the batch will actually get automatically ranked. You've also got an email list here, so I have not got any emails configured. I'll show you where this list gets configured. So if we have a list of emails here, on saving, this an email will get automatically sent to this list with batch details for this particular batch number here, and it'll give them the QC result details that you see in your results here. So it'll give them a summary of what's failed and what's accepted in this batch. So that's all the little accordion sections that you have here. There's also one more option that I'll go through here, and this is the process batch action. So these actions here are available for a sysadmin only, not for a user. The process batch action does two things. It will rerun the import process or reprocess this particular batch. So if you have unmerged assay results sitting in here for this particular batch and you've gone in and added some new codes and you've added your sample details, you've fixed your unmerged assay results, then you can actually reprocess this batch by selecting this. It'll rerun the retry merge. And then at this stage, after, if there's nothing set in your unmerged assay results, it'll run the QC checker and it will apply the batch status at this stage. So it'll rerun all of the details and repopulate the results from here. So it also allows you to reprocess if a batch has come into the system and you didn't have a QC policy attached to it, and you actually want to go and attach a QC policy and run the QC checker, you can come in here and you can reprocess through here. So the process button runs through a few different steps. It'll retry merge, it will run the QC checker, and it'll also rank your data. If it's set to accepted, it'll re-rank. So now I'll just quickly go through the admin tool, the admin button here. So the sysadmin has ability to do some configurations here. What I really wanted to show you today was the QC rules and our configuration and how this is set up. So as I was saying, there is a QC policy that we have out of the box, a QC policy 1 that you can go and change, edit, copy. So through here, we can see in the QC policy rules tab, this will show you all of the rules that have been attached to this QC policy. You can have as many policies as you like in here. We have just got one to set up. So I just wanted to go through our standard rules that we have set up for this QC policy 1. So up the top, we have all of the rules that you can apply, you can create. If we go into the QC rules standards, you can see there's 3 default rules set up. Now, if we come in here and we just look at this particular one here to edit for our standards rules, so this rule is attached to our standard QC policy 1. This rule is based around that standards have to be within 2 standard deviations of the expected value. So you can set up for a particular standard, you can actually set it up for particular standard types. By default, we set it up to all standards, but you can select it for any of these. We've set it up by default for gold, so you can change this to it. You can add as many elements as you like. Yeah, so you can copy this standard rule for another element, and there can be multiple standard rules set up for one policy. So this is the pass percentage that I was talking about before that we saw, so you can actually set that here. Now exclude your below detection limit. This will filter out any standards that are below detection limit for this rule if you have it checked, and exclude over range, the same thing. It'll filter out any standards that are over range from this particular rule. So anything that's over range, if you have this selected, will not be failed in the system. This reference values here, there's 2 options here. So by default, we have the use expected value. So use expected value means that we are going to be looking at a standard deviation calculation here, and we're going to do a calculation to get the lower and upper ranges from your expected value and expected standard deviations. These are set in your QC reference values table. So this particular rule is active, so we can see that if it was inactive, then it wouldn't be run on the system, even if it's attached to your QC policy. So you can, there's actions here available, so we can actually copy this to, as I said, a new rule and set it up for copper, and we could check down here. It's as simple as copying it to a new rule. And that's created. Now, once we've created that, we actually have to attach that to the new to our QC policy. So we have to come through here and we have to add it to the QC policy to make it active. And we can see that there's multiple elements for this particular QC policy. So if we come back to our QC rule blanks, okay, so we've got one default rule set up. So if we go into this particular one for our blanks, it's a pretty similar configuration to your standards. Standard types here can be selected for all of the blank standard types. You can still set it up for one element, multiple elements, your percentages. The only difference is this reference values for our blanks. This rule is set up to be within an expected min and max. So these, when we use high-low, this means that we're not doing a calculation on our standard deviations to find the upper and lower limits. We are using the expected minimum and expected maximum values that are set in your QC reference values table. So for these particular rules, when we run these rules, when the QC checker runs these rules, what we do by default first is, for the standards and blanks rules, it will check to see if your reference values actually exist. So when we're computing in your QC reference values here, so for this particular rule here, first of all, we check to see if the reference values exist for this standard ID element and generic method. And if the reference values don't exist, this rule will actually come up as a fail and it'll show missing reference values. If there's one or more records that are missing reference values, the whole rule is going to fail until you put your expected values in there. So you'll see missing reference values come through here. So when we come into our, so that's the blanks rule. When we've got our repeats, we've got two default repeat rules set up for our standard QC policy. So for your repeats rules, this one's checking that the lab check repeats are within 10% difference from the original value. So how is this configured? Well, you can set it up for the repeat type here. So we've set it up for your lab pulp checks. You can set up as many repeat rules as well. So you could set it up for any repeat types here by copying this record to a new one and setting it up for that particular repeat type. Set up for element AU as well as again, and then we've got the pass percentage as before. So yeah, we've got the 10% difference from the original value marked here, and your detection limits also calculate if this rule is going to pass or fail. If it's within the detection limit 10%, you can set here. So as I said, we've got two different repeat rules set up here by default. So the only difference is that the repeat type is set up for your lab repeat 1 here. So we're checking by default these two particular repeats coming into the system. You might have different repeat types configured for your particular database, so you can set them up here. So we also do a screen test. We can do screen tests for your particular samples that are coming into the system. That gets set to your sizing elements. We've set one up for the sizing element here by default. Here, you could set up a new policy here, and then you can attach your rules here to your policy. Now we come down to the last two options here, which is the QC policy layout. So this allows us to actually attach the policy to a layout. You can only have one QC policy attached to one layout attached to one QC policy. So you can actually have this policy can be attached to as many layouts as you like. And this is where you can configure your QC emails for, as we saw before, in your approval process. So I didn't have any emails set up here. You can see that this has been emailed out here. Now, yeah, so you can basically set up as many emails to go through here. So there are other admin options available, and these details here are given in our user documentation as to what these options are. I'll show you the library tables. This basically allows the system admin to go and add, edit, delete, and copy any assay library details they would like through here. But yeah, if you want more information, you can go to our user documentation for this. So that is all of the configuration for the administration and the assay management side of things, the approval process. I was just going to go through now the QC dashboard and what modifications we've done in the dashboard when you're analysing your data. So if we come back through to the dashboard, and we can go to our QC dashboard here. So I'll select some data for our demo database. We do have to go back quite a few years to get some data. And then we've got this new batch status here that you can filter your data by. The majority of the data has been set to QC not applied. So when you do the upgrade to this version, all of your batches that are existing in the system will be set to QC not applied. New batches that get imported through the system will obviously be assigned a batch status. And also, if you want to reprocess any of your batches that have been existing in the system with the QC policies, you can run the process batches on these by selecting the batch list in your assay manager and reprocessing. So I'm going to set this one up for QC not applied, and we can see all the batches that are associated here to that batch status. For this particular rule, we've allowed multiple standards to be selected in your standards chart now. So I'm going to go through down to this particular one here and these ones, and I can set up multiples here now. So we can see our details compare our details through here. We also get the option to look through and you get your expected values detailed here. We've also got an option to export all the data for this to an Excel spreadsheet here, and the PDF option exports the chart as before. So, and we've also got the repeats option here. So through the repeats, you've seen the QA/QC repeats dashboard previously. We've got the export options now available through your repeats charts here. Now, I also wanted to quickly log in as a user and just show you what access you get for a user for the assay manager. So for the user in the assay manager, still get the ability to do all of your filters. You don't get the admin option here, but you'll see also that all of the actions that are available to the admin are not available. So you can't delete your batches, but you can view your data and you can query and you can see what's been failed and accepted through here and passed. And the batch approval does not give you the option to approve, but you can see the details of who's been approving what through here as well. You can also do the batch, download the batch list. That just downloads this list to an Excel spreadsheet. So I just wanted to quickly show the downhole drill log audit report that we've done in this version. Firstly, I'm going to set up a cascade filter. So this report's tailored around your drill program, something that you can run out after your drill program's been completed to see the status of what's been logged for a particular hole. So let's say you've got your drill program, a list of your holes sitting in a spreadsheet from your drill program somewhere to copy, because I want to only look at these particular holes in this report. You could set up a filter this way. So then we come into here and we can set up a cascade filter here. And then we can select whole IDs is one of, then we can paste our list in here. Activate the filter. So if we come back to our view data now and we look at our collars, you can see that that filter's been applied here. So we've only got a list of those. Now, if we come into, we can also see through the map that that's been applied to this particular map. There's 25 holes that have been selected through here. So we can see our drill program through here as well. When you come into your report, so the drill log audit report's available for the drilling. Now I'm going to select the data set here, and this will display all of the holes that I've selected in my filter for the exploration data set. So I'm going to look at my coordinate system national. You can choose between these three. I'll show you what this does in a minute. I'm going to put my display report information. This will give us details about the colouring and the calculations that we do on the report. I'm going to set my data back. Get the details to come through. In your application, you would know your date ranges for when your program's been set. This works off the completed date. So now we can see these particular holes that I've selected, and what this gives us is this, it gives you the maximum log depth that's been logged for these particular downhole tables. It also gives you the total amounts of depths that have been logged for this particular hole. Now, with the national coordinates that I selected through here, this basically goes and checks. If we go to the last page here, it'll give you the information of what all the colours mean and what we're checking when we're looking through here. So the national coordinates will check to see if all of your details have been logged correctly for that system. Only if one or more have been logged, but not all of them, you'll get a partial. If none, you'll get a red. It's the same for the downhole tables. You get a red if nothing's been logged. So the green will be everything's equal to the maximum depth for the table, the downhole table. So you can go through here and see what all the selections are for all the options that we have here. Now, with the configuration for this particular report, so you may not be interested in these particular data ranges, so you can actually request for us to modify this report to look at your downhole tables that you require here. So for any of these particular ones here, we can change, and the element we can change through here too. You can change your element down here as well. So we can script in and we can change this particular configuration for this report. This is just our standard. So we've also added some validation option when you download your data through here. If you're doing a scheme or a layout, sometimes things have changed in your database, and when you come to download, you may get some issues. But this validation, so the list of what we actually validate here is in the release notes, so you can go through there and check. But if you have the validate option selected, it'll just do some pre-checks on your data before you validate, and then it'll come up here with a little link. If there is some issues with the particular scheme that you're downloading, and it'll tell you, you can select that link and you'll be able to, it'll give you a list of what the warnings and the issues that have been found. So that's that option there. We've also got this new settings option that's for comma delimited file formats. When downloading comma delimited now, if we select the So by default, you just have a quoted file, so everything's quoted. Then you've also got your non-quoted file for certain systems. When you're importing this data, they require non-quoted, so you can do both now. So that's, let me just have a quick look. Yeah, that's what I was going to go through today. I'll just bring up everything that we've got. Yeah, so we're videoing today's thing. We'll be able to send this out. And yeah, if you've got any questions on today's webinar, you can go through to our support desk. Send it through to support desk for any questions. And we're also going to be holding a lunch and learn session soon. So you'll be seeing an email come out for DataShed5, hands-on lunch and learn session, that you'll get more information about our Assay Manager QA/QCR process that we're doing. Thanks for coming today.